All right, my good people, it is that time once again to lock in the final predictions for the Game Awards, the 2025 festivity of advertisements and mild acknowledgement for the great games that came out in 2025, which I'm a part of the problem. I tune in for the advertisements first and foremost as well. I think most people do, so I don't think we can bitch too much, but at the end of the day, it was a great year for video games, and a lot of great games were nominated across these different categories. So, how about we go through, scan over the list, and predict what we think will win? So, we might as well start it off with Game of the Year. Hit the big dog first, and then go through the rest of the categories after the fact. So, Game of the Year, recognizing a game that delivers the absolute best experience across all creative and technical fields. And the nominees are Clair Obscur Expedition 33, Death Stranding 2 On the Beach, Donkey Kong Bonanza, Hades 2, Hollow Knight Silksong, and Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. So, this is, I mean, it's an obvious winner. We all know what the winner is going to be for Game of the Year and a lot of these other categories as well. But before we talk about that game, let's give a quick shout out to Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I think that this, out of everything on this list, I think Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is the game that impressed me the most. I'm not saying it's my favorite game of the list. I don't think it would be, but it's the game on this list that I was the most impressed by. On, not a technical front in terms of the polish, and like it's a buggy experience, or at least it was when I played it day one. I stumbled across the finish line with that game, running into many, many issues at the end where it was like, oh, this is damn near broken. But at the same time, I don't think a game, there's not as much going on. There's not as many moving parts for any of the other games nominated. Like, this is truly a living, breathing, dynamic world with NPCs that have their own, lives that they're living, and it's a real simulated world, which is just incredibly, incredibly rare to get on this level. And it's as you're seeing on the screen, the combat is definitely the weakest part of the game, but it's kind of that thing where that's what people often say as well about Red Dead Redemption 2 or Grand Theft Auto 5, and the praise is really given to just how unbelievably detailed the worlds are. And so yeah, I want to give a ton of praise, a ton of credit to the world building in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. It's unlike anything else that came out this year. It's unlike anything else that came out maybe since Red Dead Redemption 2. It's so impressive. But at the same time, I am fully aware that it's not going to win here, and I don't think it should, right? Like, I don't think it's, by and large, it's not the game that captured the zeitgeist of 2025. It's not the game that people were discussing the entire year. And I'll give a couple quick shout outs as well before we move on, and we'll talk about these games in other categories. I do think something like Donkey Kong Bonanza, in terms of just the level of destructibility on offer, I mean, it kind of takes me back to the days of Mercenaries or Red Faction, or like, it takes you back to a totally different design philosophy with video games, where it's not about crafting a great narrative, crafting a great world, crafting whatever. It's just solely focused around, let's give you a sandbox and allow you to destroy it however you see fit, break it apart into a million different pieces. And it's, I know you look at the game and it's like you're not really thinking, oh, this is some visual masterpiece. Although I do think the animation quality and like the art direction is superb, but just in terms of the density of shit you can break through and the layers upon layers of how it's this stacking effect of environments for you to destroy, where there's like sub layers beneath layers and kind of small little worlds within worlds. It's just crazy on a technical front from that one aspect. So I do want to shout it out for that. And yeah, I mean, Hades 2, God tier combat, Death Stranding 2, God tier visuals. The most impressive game on a visual front on this entire list by a mile. And then Hollow Knight Silksong, of course. I haven't played Hollow Knight Silksong, but it's the only game on this list that I haven't checked out. But Silksong, of course, like capturing the wave of excitement that built up for years, almost a damn decade, and then to deliver on a game that, I guess, how can you deliver on that level of anticipation, that level of excitement? And by and large, it seems like they did. So shout out to Team Cherry there. But yeah, I mean, do we really even need to? Once again, this is not what I think should win. This is not what I want to win. This is not my personal pick. But Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is, without a shadow of a doubt, going to win this award. And I believe, by and large, it probably should win Game of the Year this year. I don't know. And there's a lot of hyperbole. There's a lot of conversation about Clair Obscur where, you know, people are like, it totally revived the JRPG genre, turn-based combat. And I get what people are saying. And I even agree to a certain extent, but you have to, like, have full context for what you're saying, and that's not often given on like a forum or on Twitter or wherever these discussions are happening. But when I say that, I mean that, okay, listen, you have Persona, you have Dragon Quest, and Pokemon, but like outside of Pokemon and Dragon Quest, this and Persona are like the only two mainstream, you know, gonna go on to sell tens of millions of copies for an individual title, like in the modern landscape of turn-based JRPG or JRPG adjacent games. And then I think it's not a quality thing. I don't think that argument can be made on a quality front, because you even look at last year, you can make a serious argument that Metaphor is a better game than Expedition 33, and I think a lot of people would understand that and get behind that argument, or Chained Echoes, or Sea of Stars, or like there's a ton of people that would get behind those arguments for those other games. You know, just tons of different options available in the JRPG space that people really, really love. And so I don't think it's a quality contest. It's more of a capturing the mainstream appeal. This game just seemed to do that. And I think that, you know, the impact and influence that this game is going to have for 10 plus years to come, you will see a lot of Clair clones coming out. And it's once again, there's influence doesn't necessarily even equate to ambition. It doesn't necessarily equate to, it's something that can be replicated. You know, it's something that, because like Baldur's Gate 3, you could probably argue is a better game than Clair Obscur Expedition 33. It will not have a even half of the impact on the industry that Clair Obscur does, because Expedition 33 is something that can be replicated. Baldur's Gate 3 is an expensive ass video game to replicate. You can make, I mean, they did make Clair Obscur Expedition 33 on a $30 million budget, $50 million budget. I don't know what it was, but it's definitely not a AAA budget, and it was able to be done. And it's also taking, you know, photorealistic adjacent character models and putting them into a turn-based game, which is once again very rare. It's a lot more context needs to be added to the conversation of, you know, Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is this revitalization point for the market, for the genre. You need a lot more context. It's not a quality thing in its own, like it is a god tier video game, undeniably one of the best video games of the year. But I don't think when people are saying that it's this, you know, reviving the genre or breathing new life into the genre, I don't think they're talking about solely from a quality standpoint. Just the mainstream appeal of it. Like, this thing went on to sell it's probably close to 7 million copies sold at this point. That's crazy, dude. That is asinine, because we're talking like Persona 5, they lump all of their sales for like Persona 5 Strikers, Persona 5 Royal, all into one with Persona 5. So when you see Persona 5 sold like 14 million copies or whatever, that's all of these different versions of Persona 5 and little spin-offs and all of this wrapped into one when they calculate those sales. This is one game. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 has sold over 7 million, or I think it's over 6 million copies at this point in 1 year for one game that is a turn-based role-playing game. That is so fucking impressive. So yeah, I mean, once again, without a shadow of a doubt, Expedition 33 is going to win Game of the Year. It's not even, there's no chance that anything else wins. I guarantee you. All right. Next up on the docket, we have Best Game Direction, awarded for outstanding creative vision and innovation in game direction and design. And the nominees are Clair Obscur Expedition 33, Death Stranding 2 on the Beach, Ghost of Yotei, Hades 2, and Split Fiction. So, I'm not going to lie, I kind of think it's crazy that Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 isn't in here just with the idea for, and this isn't something that's never been done before, but just like having the different voice actors in the same room together when delivering their lines to deliver this like seamless sort of lived in experience where it feels like people talking to one another and not at one another. I think that really made the chemistry of the characters feel so much more lively in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. So I think Daniel Vara probably deserves to be in here for director or for best game direction. But regardless of all that, I mean, I think you probably do see a back-to-back here with Clair Obscur taking best game direction as well. However, I do wonder about Death Stranding 2 with just, I think when you think of game director, the auteur, that sort of visionary behind a product, I think that's what you're thinking about when you're selecting for best game direction. And is it just a thing where it's like he's the most well-known director that created a game that released in 2025, and it is absolutely a visionary's vision. You know, like this is something that came from the mind of one man, and then that one man passed down his vision, his idea for what the game should be, and had a lot of people designing solely around like one person's tunnel vision approach or tunnel vision focus for like what the story, what the world, what the ideas and inspiration for this game were going to be. But I kind of doubt it is going to win. I mean, I would say I think Clair Obscur is going to win, and I don't even necessarily know if I would agree with Clair Obscur winning, just in trying to think of like what were the key elements of making like the direction vision for Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Like what were the standout elements there? So just to reread the actual description here, awarded for outstanding creative vision and innovation in game direction and design. So I guess the thing that in terms of the studio's formation, in terms of keeping the budget appropriate for this game and having a nimble team working on it, definitely some creative vision on offer there, and of course a creative vision for a very, very unique premise for a game. Innovation in game direction and design, I guess that's kind of where I struggle to find that with Expedition 33. But I mean, at the same time, you really you shouldn't overlook the, and I'm not saying, once again, I don't necessarily know, do you say innovation? I'm not sure. Like active elements in turn-based combat have always been a thing. I don't know if they have ever been done this well, but to be fair, I haven't played, some of the games that Expedition 33 was inspired by, so I can't necessarily speak so specifically to like if it did it better than everyone that came before it. But no doubt it stuck. There was a stickiness, even for someone like me who I'm not a turn-based video game guy, really. Like I like more action-oriented combat, but I felt so active and engaged by the battle system in Expedition 33. It is one of my favorite combat loops of the year, and that's coming from someone who is not a turn-based fan. So I was thoroughly impressed by the combat system, and to me it was very innovative in just like, oh wow, this is the first time you got hooked into a turn-based gameplay loop. Like I've played through, your Dragon Age Origins, and like I've played through turn-based games in the past, but it wasn't the reason that I played the game. You know what I mean? Like the story would be what really carried me through, and the reason that I wanted to stick around. I rarely would ever get compelled by the combat other than just like a means to an end to see the next story beat. This, I was like kind of more interested in the combat than the story. So I got to give it a shout out there, but that's once again more from a personal standpoint than anything objective. I really like Yote a lot. Ghost of Yote is certainly one of my favorite games of the year, but I think that you could probably replace Yote and Hades 2 off of this list. And I don't know. I mean, Yote has some great game direction just in terms of like how they reconstructed their open world, where in Tsushima, I really found that the open world elements were a bit underbaked. Like it was so well designed with the wind navigation system and a lot of the UI improvements to this genre that I'm not saying they were never seen before, but definitely were welcome additions to like taking the Ubisoft formula, because people love playing Ubisoft style games. That's another thing. Like I have so many thoughts on this, but there's this like new wannabe cool crowd in the game space where it's like they don't they're anti games that play well and are fun, and they're like, well, we want everything to be super unique and super never seen before, and even if it's really bad and really rough around the edges. It's kind of like the anti Nickelback thing. Not to compare Ghost of Yote to Nickelback, but it is kind of like that. It's like the hipster crowd comes in and it's like, Spider-Man 2 sucks, Ghost of Yote sucks, Horizon sucks. It's like, y'all are the anti Nickelback critics from the 2000s, and then 20 years are going to go by, 10 years are going to go by, and y'all are going to look fucking ridiculous. For being like, these are too simple. These games are too simple for me. My palette is much more sophisticated. It's like, you fucking dorks. But it's the thing where in Tsushima, the open world activities felt pretty redundant, pretty repetitive, and I got to a point in Tsushima where I was just like, all right, I want to get to the next story beat, not really even caring about the side activities at all. And in Yote, I put down all, like, tuned out the outside world completely and didn't look at a single quest marker on that map for like 10 hours. Didn't care at all. I just explored. And the world so naturally allowed me to stumble into engaging content, engaging story beats, badass bounties, these awesome fights, these dope ass moments with so much more variety in Yote than Tsushima. But once again, I think there you're comparing a good original game to a good sequel or to a better sequel that builds off of what was already great, and maybe does it not necessarily break free from that and reinvent the wheel entirely. And so should it be knocked there in game direction? I kind of think so, and I kind of think the same way with Hades 2, and maybe you can make an argument there with Death Stranding 2 as well, but I think Death Stranding 2 does it kind of spices it up a little bit more, like adding in entirely new combat encounters, and just there's more going on in Death Stranding 2 than I think in Yote and Hades 2 in terms of just the differentiating factor. All right, we're going to be here all day if I keep on rambling like this, but I think that more than likely And oh, I gotta shout out Split Fiction, man. I do think genuinely, I believe Split Fiction is one of the most well directed, very, very curated experiences that is absolutely from the mind of a auteur, like another one of the your Sam Lakes and Kojimas and Ken Levine's. Like, I absolutely think Joseph Fares is stepping into that spotlight, and deservedly so. I think that this game, Split Fiction, in my opinion, it's kind of more impressive from a game direction and design philosophy standpoint than maybe anything else on this entire list, because I think it's the first game I've ever played where I saw the future and like saw that this is this style of design that I actually do think bridges every attention span gap. For people like you who are tuning into this video, you're watching, you clicked on an hour plus long video. I'm sure this is going to be over an hour. We're 20 minutes in and it's the second topic, or the second category. You probably have a longer attention span than most people with short attention spans are not getting hour-long videos recommended on their YouTube homepage. But I also think that this game can be played by your nephew who is a TikTok addict, and y'all will both enjoy it equally with two vastly different expectations for like what, like you can sit in a Yote and you can sit in a Death Stranding 2 and a Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and you can bask in the mundane and the methodical sort of approach to the design with that game, with those games. This is absolutely not that at all. It is breakneck, swapping from one thing to the next right in the millisecond that you're getting bored with one level. You're to the next one. But it's also so well designed with, 30 years of design lessons and throwing back to the past from some of the glory years of all-time great video games and referencing some great media just even outside of games throughout this, that is so enriching just as a enjoyer of interactive entertainment. If you have been playing games for 30 years, you're going to appreciate a lot of the nods and just the how it feels, man. Moment to moment feel in this game is maybe the best playing video game of 2025. But anyway, I could wax poetic about Split Fiction all day. It's certainly one of my favorite games of 2025. All right, so predicting the winner. Listen, I think that the winner is likely going to go to Clair Obscur, Expedition 33. My second, it's one of these two. It's either Expedition or Death Stranding 2. It's without a doubt one of those two. I think I'm gonna predict, once again, not my personal pick. I think my personal pick here would be Split Fiction out of these. But I think Expedition 33 is going to win for best game direction. What do we have up next? Oh boy, is the site? Okay, here it goes. Best narrative. So for outstanding storytelling and narrative development in a game. And the nominees are Expedition 33, Death Stranding 2, Ghost of Yote, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and Silent Hill F. I'm happy to see Silent Hill F in here. I think that it is, from the people who really dove into it and got all the multiple endings, they seemed really, really passionate about their takeaway. I hated the combat so much that I put the game down, but I appreciate when a game is doing something that is, requiring a little bit of investment, and then the people who really want to put that investment in get so much out of it, and then it's rewarded here. And I think that's just awesome. So shout out to Silent Hill F. Best narrative. So we've talked about all these games extensively already because it's kind of going to be the same games nominated over and over again here. I think that best narrative is going to go to Expedition 33. I understand everybody watching, this is probably getting pretty boring. Expect more boredom, because I think Expedition 33 is going to win a lot of stuff here. The only thing that I could see, like for me personally, I would probably select Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 here for all the reasons we went over earlier. I just think that when you're talking about a narrative with just this level of painstaking detail in every scenario, and how this narrative can branch based on what you choose to do as the player, the agency that you're inputting into this storyline, to see, where you want to take it, and if you can even alter it, depending on stat progression and stuff like that, which we'll get into that a little bit later when talking about role-playing game. But it's just the mundane of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. There were moments in this game that really nothing was going on other than 15 minutes of dialogue, and I was more compelled by those 15 minutes of dialogue than entire other video games that released this year that I actually enjoyed. Like, this has it's a game that I think a testament to the quality of the story is I don't necessarily like the game. The gameplay experience I felt was fairly cumbersome a lot of the time, and I think that the combat system borders on bad, but I didn't care. I sunk over 50 hours into this thing just because I wanted to see the next story beat and how it all unfolded, and I was so invested in Henry and Hans, and like this cast of characters were incredibly compelling to me, like to the point of little things like going to a wedding and a story beat that it's like, okay, this seems once again fairly standard, fairly stereotypical, mundane, but like there's more personality in that wedding than most major story beats. The endings that are supposed to stay with you for years to come from emotional games that released in 2025, just like going to a wedding, and the natural chemistry between these different voice actors, and once again the idea of having these voice actors in studio together to record lines amongst one another, so they're talking to one another, not at one another. There was a natural flow to the dialogue, and just the chemistry felt so palpable with these characters. So yeah, I would personally select KCD2 here. Yote has a good story that borders on great at times, but suffers a little bit too much from predictability. Expedition 33 has a fantastic story, no doubt, a very, very strong story, and it's going to win best narrative. So my prediction for best narrative is Expedition 33. Best art direction. So for outstanding creative and or technical achievement in artistic design and animation. So creative and or technical achievement. So this is also, when you're thinking of technical achievement, you are thinking of Death Stranding 2 and Ghost of Yote. And quickly, the nominees are Expedition 33, Death Stranding 2, Ghost of Yote, Hades 2, and Hollow Knight Silksong. Yeah, that technical achievement, I don't know if I overlooked that in the past, but if you're talking technical achievement, it should be Death Stranding 2 or Ghost of Yote. And then if you're going into like creative, like sheerly from or purely from an artistic design standpoint, that's when you start getting into Silksong. That's when you start getting into Hades 2. Expedition 33 kind of here we fucking go. This could be a massive, massive sweep. I'm because I haven't really gone through these, like we did the live reaction to the nominees being revealed, but I haven't really sat here and gone through and had the time to look over everything, and I'm starting to see what is going to happen, or what I think is going to happen is like Expedition 33 might run away with just about everything, and it's just about justified. Like a lot of this is when you look at the letter of the law, right? Like, go back to the description for outstanding creative and or technical achievement. Creative and or technical. I think this is kind of doing both, with artistic design and animation. And like when you're talking about a damn near photorealistic set of character models on screen and the facial animations that you expect from a AAA blockbuster, and maybe not quite on that level, but fucking close enough. And you're thinking about all of those aspects of like, yeah, this is a game that looks pretty fucking AAA, but at the same time, the worlds that they're crafting and the color palette choices and just the artistic integrity that stays intact the entire time while playing this thing, it's fucking jaw dropping from a visual standpoint, from both fidelity and from art design. So it's like, I mean, dude, it not to, uh, it looks like a painting. Like the game, yeah, it looks like a painting. Um, Damn. I mean, I think my vote here personally would probably go to Ghost of Yote. No, my vote would be Death Stranding 2. I mean, there's certain shit that you see in Death Stranding 2 that is just unreal, man. Absolutely unreal. I mean, the opening of that game, when you're talking about, once again, the technical achievement of the draw distance, and you're standing on this mountaintop and you just see miles and miles ahead of you, and it's all rendered in real time. And you're talking about, just some of the shit I've seen from gameplay clips. And because once again, I don't really necessarily even like Death Stranding 2. I played it for 8-10 hours, something like that, and I was like, I'm good. I don't really ever want to play anything Death Stranding related ever again. But from a pure appreciation standpoint of the art direction, I mean, best looking character models ever in video games, probably. I don't know, maybe this is gonna go to Death Stranding 2 the more that I'm thinking about it, because like, I mean, just look at this thing, dude. Like, it is absolutely jaw dropping, and it is technically so competent, right? Like, it is flawless from a technical design standpoint to get something. I mean, that damn Decima engine is a powerhouse for the open world genre, and it's crazy to see something as dynamic as Horizon created in that engine. And it doesn't have to be something as limited as a Death Stranding, which Death Stranding 2, actually, a lot of those, I mean, look at the cloud, look at the fucking the smoke and the debris. And I mean, this is crazy technical achievement combined with unbelievable art direction. I don't know, man, because you have that section with the fireworks and shit in Death Stranding 2 that is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life. Yeah, I once again, best character models in games. This is probably the most beautiful game that's ever been created. It should probably go to Death Stranding 2. And I mean, I don't think Death Stranding 2 is going to win really anything else here. Not to say I don't think, you're not just going to throw the vote. It could just be a thing where Expedition 33 sweeps almost everything. That is fairly likely, but I'm going to predict Death Stranding 2 here, and I think I am going to be wrong, but I'm going to predict Death Stranding 2. Next category on the board is Best Score and Music. There's a massive snub on this with South of Midnight, and I also think a massive snub for Best Narrative with Dispatch. Dispatch should have been in Best Narrative, or at least, well, it's the tough thing where, and we've talked about it a lot, but the cutoff process with the Game Awards is so unfortunate, because a lot of people didn't nominate Dispatch because the entire thing didn't release when they were voting. So like, they had played 2-3 episodes when they were voting, but you're not going to nominate it for Best Narrative until you finished it, because if it completely falls apart, then you can't say it's the best narrative. That would be crazy. Even though in those 3 episodes, I think it's probably a better story than a lot of other stories from this year, which Not, I mean, it's been a great year for games. I'm not discounting, but Dispatch it's got the shits. Best score in music for outstanding music inclusive of score, original song, and or licensed soundtrack. And the nominees are Christopher Larkin for Hollow Knight Silksong, Darren Korb for Hades 2, Lorien Testard for Obscure Expedition 33, Toma Ottawa for Ghost of Yote, Wookid and Ludwig Forsell for Death Stranding 2 on Thy Beach. I would assume, once again, this is going to go to Lorien Testard for Expedition 33. Ghost of Yote, excellent score as well. Hades 2. I think Hollow Knight Silksong, from what I've heard, has a great soundtrack. But yeah, it's crazy that South of Midnight isn't in here. I understand it's obviously it's a popularity thing more so than a quality thing. Like you're not going to have the best of each genre, each category represented, because even something like Mario Kart, from what I've heard, is astounding in terms of the soundtrack. Even Donkey Kong, I think you could make an argument for being in here, but South of Midnight it's one of the only games I've ever played in my life where I would actually almost recommend playing it solely for the soundtrack and the visuals. I don't think that this is a game. It doesn't deserve to be nominated almost anywhere else. You can give it best art direction as well, a nomination there. I think it would be deserving of that with the stop motion, and it has a beautiful aesthetic to it. But I think that it's not necessarily a great game. I enjoyed it a lot because it's old school PS2 energy, but it's very on rails, very simple, very standard third person action adventure title. Nothing too impressive. The soundtrack is unreal. You are literally taking characters and creating songs specifically for each character with lyrics that back the backstory for the characters and a singer that is representing each character that they're singing about. And like, there's full stories being told in the score with this soundtrack. It is remarkable achievement, and just the instrumentation choice and it is astounding how impressive this soundtrack is, and for it to not be nominated on here, I think, is a travesty. But with all that being said, at the end of the day, the winner is going to be Expedition 33. And what do we got up next? Is it Frozen? It looks like it might be Frozen. Oh, brother. That's actually for the better. I'm just going to go through. We're already running long as a motherfucker, so let's just kind of run through some of the categories. We did Game of the Year, we did Best Game Direction, we did Best Narrative, we did Best Art Direction, Best Score and Music, Best Audio Design. I'm not equipped for that conversation. I don't know. Let's see. Best Performance. Let's hit that. Awarded to an individual for voice over acting, motion, and or performance capture. And the nominees are Ben Starr for Expedition 33, Charlie Cox for Expedition 33, Erika Ishii for Ghost of Yote, Jennifer English for Expedition 33, and Kanatsu Kato for Silent Hill F, Troy Baker for Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Shout out to Troy Baker for getting in here, man. It is so unbelievably easy to... a game comes out 12 months ago, 11 months ago, and you have forgotten so much about it because you've played 50 other games in that in-between period. But there's no doubt, best performance, Troy Baker probably deserves to win this. He's not going to, but he probably deserves to win this. You will play this entire game and question yourself, is it fucking Harrison Ford? I mean, it is so damn Indiana Jones coded through and through. Like, it has all the markings and hallmarks for a full blown Harrison Ford prime Indiana Jones performance. He crushes this shit. And I understand you don't want to give the award to Troy Baker because he has 752 other awards, but what's the alternative? You give it to someone from Expedition 33 and stack up 30 other Expedition 33 awards. Like, there's going to be, you're going to have a situation where someone wins too much, and then like we talked about throughout the video, Expedition 33 deserves to win a lot of the shit that it's going to win. I don't really know performance wise. Like, I struggle to find who should take that home because you're kind of splitting the vote. My brain immediately goes to Charlie Cox is going to win it. He's fucking Daredevil, mainstream Hollywood actor, even though he admitted that he only did like 4 hours of voiceover work and he's kind of stunned by the reaction. But regardless, he did the work and it left an impact on people. So all that be damned. And also Aaron Paul should have been nominated for this as well. I was listening to an interview with Aaron Paul where he's like, yeah, I worked on this damn thing for 2 years. I put everything into my role for Dispatch. And it's like, Charlie Cox like, I went in 4 hours, knocked it out. Fucking give me my award. But no, I don't know. I think out of the Expedition 33 nominees, I think Jennifer English for Mael should probably be the person that takes it home here. You know, if you're going to give it to someone from Expedition 33, if it's just going to be a full-blown sweep for this game, I think Mael, you know, Jennifer English, her performance as Mael left the most impact on me, especially with where that story goes. And yeah, that would be the one I would hope out of the Expedition 33 cast wins. But fucking A, Troy Baker, I think, deserves it. And also shout out to the lady for Silent Hill F. I heard she delivered an excellent performance, especially with like some of the in-game emotional high stakes moments in that game. Erika Ishii, solid performance, intentionally flat, right? Like it's not a character with crazy range, but intentionally so. And she does showcase range when needed. Like it always, when she does get emotional, which is very rare, it feels very, very earned, which is important once again from a direction standpoint. I think Troy Baker deserves it, and I don't think it's going to happen once again. I got to remember, don't vote with heart, or don't predict with heart, predict with head. I think probably Charlie Cox. Now I'm going to go Jennifer English because I think the people voting have played Expedition 33 and finished it. And if you did play and finish it, it's almost a no-brainer to me. But regardless, so I'm going to predict Jennifer English for Expedition 33. Innovation and accessibility, I'm not qualified for that. Games for impact, probably not qualified. What's the description here? For a thought-provoking game with a pro-social meaning or message. Despelote. The nominees are Consume Me, Despelote, Lost Records, Bloomin' Rage, South of Midnight, and Wanderstop. Despelote was really damn impactful to me. Like I learned a lot about Ecuador and a lot about the culture and the importance of soccer, and then just sort of understanding their culture and some of their even political dynamics more there. But I heard Consume Me is really solid. I once again, I don't know enough about even what that means to vote on it. Let's see. Best ongoing, I don't care. Best community support, I don't care. Best independent game. Best independent game for outstanding creative and technical achievement in a game made outside the traditional publisher system. Which is like, yeah, a lot of somewhat large publisher names backing some of these titles, which large in the indie space, I get it. It's just, even this, I think you can kind of get into that conversation with all these awards. Like, what do any of these mean other than Game of the Year? Like, Game of the Year makes sense, and then everything else is like, is anything independent other than something that is completely solo dev, out of this list? The only thing that's independent is like, to me, would be Team Cherry with Silksong, and Hades 2, I mean, is technically independent. I've had the conversation, and people have pushed back on me for saying this. I think that the easy way to get around all this, which it'll never happen because God knows it would, I mean, these publishers would kill a motherfucker before they disclose. Like, if you don't have to disclose your budget, you're not a publicly traded company, don't, hell no. Why would you do that? But I do think that, that's kind of a way to define independent or indie. Maybe not independent. Maybe you change the name of it to Best Indie Game and not independent, because independent, to me, it's like Team Cherry and Supergiant. The makers of the game, the funders of the game, the publishers of the game, completely independent. But then it gets hairy where it's like, okay, Hades 2, the budget on that is probably larger than Blueprints, Ball Pit, and Absalom combined. Expedition 33, the budget on Expedition 33 is probably larger than every game on this list combined, other than take Hades 2 out, but throw in Silksong, throw in Blueprints, throw in Ball Pit, throw in Absalom. You know what I mean? So it's like, I would like to see a scenario where maybe it's a $10-15 million limit, and if you're over that, you can't be qualified as, but you would have to change the name to Best Indie Game and just have it as like more, once again, a vibes thing than or a monetary thing, a budget thing, than like a specific description thing, where this for outstanding creative and technical achievement in a game made outside the traditional publisher system. Well, the traditional publisher system is evaporating before our eyes. You can't tell me that, like, Kepler is making a push for making a real stand as a big name publisher. They published fucking Rematch and Sifu and Expedition 33. Like, they're on the come up. And Devolver and Raw Fury, and it's hard to define it. Like, I do understand you want to shout out smaller games from smaller studios, and that's really, at the end of the day, what this is. Like, you just want to shout out, you want to give more range of awards and shout outs to games that are deserving but maybe don't get in for other categories like action adventure or game of the year, game direction, whatever the case may be. So I understand the want to have this category from purely like a acknowledgement standpoint, but at the same time, I don't really even understand what we're talking about. But with the list of games, if we're just looking at it and predicting what is the best independent game, what's going to win out of the 5 games presented before us, I mean, are we serious? Are we going to have a conversation? Like, it's Expedition 33 by a fucking landslide. It's not even up for debate. It's going to win Game of the Year. It's going to win Best Independent Game of the Year. Has that ever happened before? Ooh, that's an interesting. That's homework. I'm going to allow y'all to do some homework there. Is this going to be the first time that happens? Can't be, right? I think it is, though. Like, I'm going through the Rolodex. Dragon Age Inquisition, The Witcher 3, Overwatch, Breath of the Wild, God of War, Sekiro, The Last of Us 2, It Takes Two, Elden Ring, Baldur's Gate 3, Astrobot. Yeah, this is going to be the first time that happens, as far as I'm aware. That's fucking crazy. Best debut indie game. Oh, this is cool. Yeah, so Megabonk, that released recently, the 3D Vampire Survivors, like, the developer made a statement on Twitter where he was like, yo, I just started a new like studio name, but I've been making games for a while. I'm not a debut. I've been around for a bit. So he's like, I don't feel like I should qualify for this category. I want the others to have a fair shot at it without Megabonk in the mix because it doesn't make sense. It's not our debut title. It's just a new name that I'm working under, which is really really cool, very admirable. But I wish that they would have just kind of like substituted it. Pick the game that was voted on. What was the sixth most voted entry, and then slot that in for the new number five. Um, but yeah, I mean, once again, these conversations at this point, it's like Expedition 33 is going to win Best Debut Indie. So I maybe that's the thought process behind it. It's like, why even put something up there? It's not going to stand a chance. Expedition 33 is going to win that. Let's see. Best action adventure, another category that is, yeah, best action game. For the best game in the action genre, focused primarily on combat. And really at the end of the day, I get this. I get this. I get the difference between action and action adventure. It gets gray at times, but Battlefield 6, Doom the Dark Ages, Hades 2, Ninja Gaiden 4, and Shinobi Art of Vengeance are the nominees. I think my favorite on this list from a personal standpoint is probably Ninja Gaiden 4. I just found this game exceptional in terms of, I know a lot of people, I totally understand, and I can see the complaint of it doesn't feel like a Ninja Gaiden game, it feels like a Platinum game. My problem with that is I like Platinum games. And sure, would I've rather it just been a new IP so it didn't have any of the extra baggage behind it with, that comes with being a Ninja Gaiden game and the expectations there. Sure, I'd be down for either, but for me personally, as somebody who I like Ninja Gaiden, I like Platinum, you combine the two, I'm open to something that plays like Rising or Vengeance more so than Ninja Gaiden Black. And that's what we got. And I thoroughly enjoyed Ninja Gaiden 4. But if I don't think it's going to win, I feel more likely than not Hades 2 will be the game that takes home the award for best action game. And I mean, justifiably so, right? It's nominated for Game of the Year, and it just plays exceptionally well, and with the new build crafting and the upgrading and the new weapons on offer, it is a very addicting as gameplay experience. And so yeah, I think that more likely than not, Hades 2 is going to be the game that takes home the best action award. Doom the Dark Ages should definitely get some shout outs here. It is a badass action game. Battlefield 6 I have heard is incredible. The destructibility there on offer, I have been thoroughly impressed with every clip I've seen of it. Shinobi Art of Vengeance, I have not played that, but I've heard great things about Shinobi Art of Vengeance. Yeah, so the only ones I haven't played here are Battlefield 6 and Shinobi, but I do want to check out Shinobi. I didn't they had a physical launch that was exclusive to limited run games, unfortunately, and I didn't get it in time, but I do want to pick up. I'm sure it'll get a full physical release later on down the road. They do that all the time, unfortunately. But what else we got? Best action adventure, definitely got to hit that one. Best action adventure, for the best action adventure game combining combat with traversal and puzzle solving. The nominees are Death Stranding 2, Ghost of Yotei, Hollow Knight Silksong, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, and Split Fiction. Let me read that description once again. The best action adventure game combining combat with traversal and puzzle solving. So let's break this down. Death Stranding 2, not a lot of puzzle solving going on. Ghost of Yotei, there are puzzles, but they're not that great. Silksong definitely, I think hits all of the markers there. Combat, traversal, puzzle solving. Indiana Jones, I think, hits all the markers there. Combat, traversal, puzzle solving. Split Fiction definitely hits all the markers there. Split Fiction might be my pick here. I think it does all of those things exceptionally fucking well. Although, like, I hate to be so reductive, but in my opinion, like when I think of the term action adventure, and I know this is boxing it in and it's limiting inherently, but I do think of the pulpy blockbuster, the movie that you go and sit down. It's July, it's hot outside, and you're about to watch Tom Cruise do some ridiculous ass shit, perform some batshit crazy stunts. Like, that's action adventure to me, and when I think about it in the game space, I do immediately think to your Uncharted's and your Tomb Raiders and your Assassin's Creeds. And I don't know why I immediately associate those things together, because by the letter of the law, Hollow Knight absolutely makes sense there. Split Fiction absolutely makes sense there. But man, oh man, Indiana Jones just hits. It hits on that big summer blockbuster feel when you're booting this thing up, and the combat is so innovative, so unique. The puzzle solving for some of the side quests are so complicated and like really require in-depth thought to solve some of the side quest puzzles. And and then, like, I think it's kind of underrated with the traversal aspects as well. Like, it feels good to move and control, and yeah, I think it hits all the markers for when I'm thinking of the boxes that you need to check to be an action adventure game in my very archaic view. Indiana Jones hits all of those. And golly, just look at this shit, man. Are you kidding me? This is the shit that you know, and not to get into a full thing here because we're already an hour into this damn video, but it's whenever back in the day, you're looking at Bad Boys and you're looking at Rush Hour and you're looking at these blockbusters on the silver screen, if you will, and I'm thinking nonstop because I'm a video game. I love video games so much as a kid that every time I would watch a movie that I thought was dope, I would always be like, oh my God, I wish I could play something like that in game form. And it took a while to really get to the point where you can have these crazy elaborate set pieces and these wild moments that feel like, you know, this huge scale spectacle. Um, but dude, Indiana Jones delivers like 5 of those moments that are better than damn near anything I have seen this generation in terms of just the spectacle of, once again, that pulpy action adventure DNA just dripping out of this game seems. It is, yeah. I would vote Indiana Jones here personally. I think that or Split Fiction would be my vote. But I think from removing myself, removing the subjectivity and thinking about like what I would predict objectively to get the nod here, I think it's going to be Hollow Knight Silksong that wins Best Action Adventure. Once again, it's nominated for Game of the Year. I don't think it's going to win that, so it's going to win the other category that it's not nominated amongst any of the other Game of the Year. Well, Death Stranding 2 is in that, but it's, yeah, Hollow Knight's going to win Best Action Adventure. I think. I don't fucking know. I don't have any... nothing has been leaked to me. I don't have any of this shit documented. Let's talk Best RPG. For the best game designed with rich player character customization and progression, including massively multiplayer experiences. And the nominees are Avowed, Expedition 33, KCD 2, Monster Hunter Wilds, and The Outer Worlds 2. Major credit to Obsidian for getting 2 games on the board here. I don't think that's ever been done either. Incredibly prolific, productive studio with their split studio kind of, having the smaller teams going off and creating different, mid-scale experiences, AA-ish experiences. Avowed, I don't really think deserves to be here, if I'm being completely honest, though, because I think when I think about role-playing game, I think that one of the pillars for me personally is the storytelling and the characters that you're attached to. And I think Avowed struggles in the writing mightily. Like, I think it is not a well-written game. And you give some choice and you give a little consequence, and then all of that is fine and well, but when you don't care about anything happening in the world, the lore, the characters, it's hard to give a shit about really the systems that are working behind the scenes. And I don't think whenever you're talking about the flexibility for possibility, like the Outer Worlds 2 really delivers that in spades much more than Avowed in terms of the dynamic kind of branching possibilities depending on the player that you crafted, and the progression and the skill points, and the oh, I went and read this document from a computer from this terminal, and now I have information to blackmail this character, and all of these things that lead to just splitting off into different ways of tackling the same mission. Like, that's the Outer Worlds does that in spades. The Outer Worlds 2. Avowed, not as much. However, the difficult conversation to have there is to acknowledge all of that as I believe is true, but then to look at Monster Hunter Wilds being here as well. And then I struggle, because then you're pretty much just talking about games with good combat that have stats. And if that's the case, then Avowed definitely deserves to be in here. Avowed is one of the best first person role-playing games I have ever played in my life. Like, it is not, remove role-playing, remove that entire term. Avowed has some of the best playing, most polished first-person melee combat that I've ever experienced in my life, including like Dying Light and Indiana Jones, and like, this is top-tier melee combat. And it does, if you're talking about build crafting and like, okay, I have magic in one hand, a gun in the other, a sword in one hand, magic in the other, and like, you're dual wielding magic and firearms, magic and swords, guns and swords, and the flexibility there, and also the platforming and traversal feels fucking incredible in this game. So if you're talking about games that play really well, that have stats, then sure, it probably is one of the best 5 of the year. But for me personally, I think something like Monster Hunter Wilds and Avowed should probably be tossed in order to get, like, I know it's a remake, but that Trails in the Sky game seemed to really click with players, and it's the difficult conversation about what is an RPG, because a very linear, curated, on rails experience like Expedition 33, like Trails in the Sky, some people would say, do those really qualify? When you're talking about something like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 and The Outer Worlds 2 and Avowed, and these games where you do have flexibility in the decisions you can make, and you're actually playing a role in the story shaping out for the game experience. But like, what do? Do you separate it Western RPG and Japanese RPG? That seems very pedantic and kind of unnecessary. So I don't know, man. With all of these categories, you're never going to satisfy anyone. I think Game of the Year, once again, is the only one that makes sense. But what do you do at that point? Do you just cut all the other categories and you have like 50 selections for Game of the Year? It's yeah. You can bitch about it until the cows come home, but I think the way that they have it structured now is probably the way it's going to be moving forward, and by and large it probably should be this way. Who cares? It's a way to just shout out as many games as possible. But I think that's kind of one of my things where I just wish there was more shouting out, like I almost wish that, which I think they do it with DICE, where they all come together and they sort of debate a little bit more than just vote. I know one of the award shows do that, and that's why I love podcasts, and I love, like the MinMax Awards or Giant Bomb Awards or whatever the case may be, because they get into the nitty gritty and discuss like, okay, well, we just fucking had this game nominated for 4 things before it. Like, let's shout out something else. It's not necessarily about acknowledging the best of whatever when you're talking about personal awards. It's about just trying to spread the field and be like, yeah, dude, there was a lot of great shit that came out this year. Let's show some love to as much of it as possible. But yeah, I mean, we can sit here and discuss all of that until the cows come home. The winner's going to be Expedition 33. Uh, no doubt about it. I think that I think Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, by my qualification for like what I look at as a role playing game, is probably a stronger role playing game. Just in the sense of, I think it does everything the best. You know what I mean? Like, I think it does, well, everything that I consider for a role playing game, which I guess then you do, once again, the description gets muddy because if you are talking about the combat and all of that, it is the worst of the bunch here. But in terms of a lot of the things that I look at for a role playing game experience, like incredibly well written characters, wild degrees of possibilities, and emergent moments that can occur just through you choosing to do something in gameplay. Like, oh, well, this is a main quest giver, but he has the key that I need that can get me access to some documentation that I could use for, blackmail later on. And I'm going to kill this dude and I'm going to take his key and I'm going to go find those files. But that's a main quest or a main, faction possibility that just completely was eliminated by me driving a dagger through his skull in stealth. A moment of impulse just led me to losing out an entire line of possibilities for questing later on. And then I grab the key and I grab a bunch of fucking loot off his body and now I'm caked up. I got tons of money. You completely changed the entire flow of your experience playing the game because you just leveled up, not in terms of stat progression alone, but in terms of you leveled up Henry. You leveled up you have tons of fucking cash on hand at that point. And so now you can go and buy better gear and you can, like, it just changes the dynamic of play entirely by small choices that you can make that would seem inconsequential and maybe impulsive in a moment, but end up resulting in something that totally alters your experience playing the game. Like, this is, yeah, for sure, man. Like, this is kind of the definition of how I think of role-playing games. Well written, incredible avenues to explore different possibilities, and then it does have all of your progressions and your perks and your flaws, and like which I do think, if you're going into that, I think the Outer Worlds 2 takes that to a totally different level. And I mean, you could make a strong case for the Outer Worlds 2 being the best role-playing game of the year, because I think it takes a lot of the lessons learned from Avowed, just in the sense that, like, this thing plays. This thing fucking plays, man. It feels good to play this game. And I will give credit there to Avowed. Like, Avowed plays better. Avowed is a better playing video game. Like, the gameplay feels crunchier. There's more impact on your hits. It feels better to play Avowed. But it takes the right lessons while maintaining, like, the Fallout New Vegas-y sensibilities to your, your perk system and a lot of the factions and how impactful they are in the end game, and a lot of the importance that's put on your choices and how flexible they are. I think that the Outer Worlds 2, you could make a real case for being the best RPG of the year, now that I'm thinking about it more. But yeah, it's all of this conversation is for nothing, though. The best role-playing game of the year that's going to win is going to be Expedition 33. And I mean, it's just a matter of definition, right? Of how you define it personally. A lot of people simply look at the term RPG, and if you see action combat at all, it's kind of like one of the eliminating factors of RPG for a lot of people, because there is like a clear divide of what's a Western RPG, what's a JRPG. And for the longest time, RPG was just JRPG because Japanese creators created RPGs, essentially. So it's like that was the definition because that was the origin point. And then it evolved and became something different. And now it's, you got stats and progression systems and all of that in every game. And to the point where Monster Hunter Wilds is somehow, for some reason, in here. But you can make an argument that that might even belong. You can make an argument that something like Diablo, does it belong because of your build crafting? Can Destiny belong in here? Like, it gets so muddled, but I think that Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 deserves it, or The Outer Worlds 2. But I also think Expedition 33 deserves it, based on how you describe it, you know? Okay. So my prediction, just to be clear, Expedition 33. My prediction for everything is Expedition 33. Let's see. Best fighting. I didn't play enough fighting games this year. Best family. I don't have a family. Best sim and strategy. Is The Altars in here? The Altars, that's another one that dude, Alex Jordan, he should have been nominated for best performance for sure. Yeah. Bummer. Best sports and racing. Rematch. Fuck yeah. My vote in my prediction is going to go to Rematch for best sports and racing. I need to play Sonic Cross Worlds, the racing game. I need to play Mario Kart World. I still haven't booted that up either. Crazy the college football still not in here. I mean, I know it's an international vote, so. Best multiplayer. Did Arc Raiders make it here? Cool. Battlefield 6, Arc Raiders, Night Rain, Peak, Split Fiction. Dope. Once again, I'm not going to comment on the things that I don't have enough knowledge to speak to. I'm not a big multiplayer game guy. I mean, my pick for it would be Split Fiction. I think Split Fiction is excellent. I love Rematch as well, but I can't really compare them to like Battlefield 6 and Arc Raiders because I haven't played them, so like I don't know. Best adaptation. Recognizing outstanding creative work that faithfully and authentically adapts a video game to another entertainment medium. And the nominees are a Minecraft movie, Devil May Cry, Splinter Cell, Death Watch, The Last of Us Season 2, and Until Dawn. Yeah, well, shit, once again, it's crazy that Twisted Metal, I think, should probably be in here. Yeah, Twisted Metal should probably be in here. I feel like they snubbed something else. The Sonic movie, Sonic 3, should probably be in here. But I assume Minecraft is going to win this. Minecraft just dominated the box office in 2025, so I would assume Minecraft takes it for best adaptation. All right, we'll close off with most anticipated game. Recognizing an announced game that has demonstrably illustrated potential to push the gaming medium forward. So, the nominees are 007 First Light, Grand Theft Auto 6, Marvel's Wolverine, Resident Evil Requiem, and The Witcher 4, which... Okay, The Witcher 4. I really wish this was like most anticipated game of 2026. Most anticipated game that has a release date for the following year, I think should be the correct description, because is The Witcher 4 also going to be in the running next year? Like GTA 6, if it gets delayed, is it going to be in the running again? I think you should have like one crack at most anticipated. But once again, I'm bitching about a fucking irrelevant award anyway. Listen, like GTA 6 won last year, I think. It is the most anticipated game ever. And it's funny because, you know, there's a lot of rumor right now that Half-Life 3 is going to launch early in 2026. And so theoretically, you could be looking at the first and second most anticipated game in the history of humanity launching next to each other in 2026, competing for Game of the Year in 2026. We are in wild times. I don't know if Half-Life 3 even exists. Who fucking knows? But, you know, even there, I appreciate people bringing that to the conversation of like, is Half-Life 3, is it more anticipated than Grand Theft Auto 6? Could it possibly outshine GTA 6? It's like, well, certainly if GTA 6 comes out and it sucks, it can outshine it critically. GTA 6 will sell more copies than Half-Life 1, 2, and 3 combined in probably the first 7 minutes that it's on the market, pre-orders alone will outsell the entire Half-Life franchise. I don't know if that's true. Half-Life 2 sold, I think, like 10 million copies. And Half-Life 1, I think, was maybe half of that. So, and then, yeah, 3 will come out and sell. So it probably won't outsell it in pre-orders. But you get what I'm saying. Like, it's a totally different cultural phenomenon that nobody's on that level. Skyrim, like Elder Scrolls 6 might be the closest thing in the core gaming space. Maybe, back in the day, I think Halo, genuinely, I do believe the launch of a Halo, if you were around during that time and, watching G4 or whatever, like they would pan down the streets of hundreds and hundreds of human beings lined up waiting for the release of Halo 3, the release of Halo 2. I remember there was like 400,000 concurrent players rumored for Halo 2 on the original Xbox, a system that sold like 30-40 million units, and it was all because of that game. Supposedly that game sold, if I'm not mistaken, I think that there were rumors that it sold 3 million copies on day one for Halo 2. Like that it's so crazy how times change, because at the same time you go back to 2004 and it would have been those two, right? It would have been San Andreas, Halo 2, and Half-Life 2. That was all 2004. What a fucking year. Man, what a year. But like those were the 3 games in 2004. Oh my God. In 2026, we're going to get Halo Remake, possibly Half-Life 3, and GTA 6. Just like 2004. All over again. That is fucking crazy. Yeah. Anywho, Grand Theft Auto 6 is the most anticipated game that's ever been created in the history of humanity. So it probably should win this, but it also should not even be eligible, in my opinion. You get one shot. If you delay your shit, it shouldn't be there. GTA 6 should not be in the running here, in my opinion. In order, I would say number 1 is Grand Theft Auto 6, and this is not my personal ranking. I think if you had to go my personal ranking, honestly, I don't even fucking know. But I think in terms of overall perception, it would be GTA 6 number 1. I feel like I'm starting to let my personal bias influence a little bit here, but I'm thinking maybe Requiem over Wolverine potentially. Like RE4 sold 15 million copies already, the remake, in 2 years on the market. That's nuts. Like I don't know if Wolverine's even going to do those type of numbers. I love Wolverine, but yeah, oh no, what am I saying? It's GTA 6 number 1, The Witcher 4 number 2, and then everything else fighting for third, and then 007 probably at last. But shout out, I can't fucking wait for that game. Yeah, that's it for the episode, for the games of the year, the nominees, the predictions for the winners and the snubs and the losers and everything in between. I appreciate y'all tuning in to this hour and 19-minute long ramble fest. A lot of categories to go over, even though we probably only covered 20% of the categories, and I sat there and ran my damn mouth for damn near an hour and a half. But yeah, appreciate y'all for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe if you are new and you want, because listen, I love that they try to shine a light on a lot of video games. I am about to shit on the light that they shone. Great wordplay there. But yeah, I want to really shine a light. Listen, I can't play everything. I'm one dude running this operation here, but I try my best to play as many games as possible every year to really put people on some underrated shit, like some really, really good shit that just got completely slept on. Like, I wish that was a category. Most slept on game. Like, make it fun. Get freaky with it. But I'm going to do a full video detailing 30 plus of the underrated titles that came out in 2025. So stay locked in, subscribe for that. You know, Game of the Year, of course, I'll have that up and available at the end of December, ranking over 50 games that I played in 2025. The Unnecessary Award Show with me and my homie Loon, we're going to go through probably 2-3 hours and award a bunch of different games for a bunch of different categories that are more fun. You know, like most ambitious game. I have a category that I included this year called most influential game of 2035. So what game released in 2025 that will be the most influential in 2035? What are some other weirdo categories that I have in there? I like looking back at the news as well, like biggest news story of 2025. You know, shit that's a little bit silly as well. Like I have some categories in mind for some additional categories to include in there. But yeah, you know, a bunch of more silly, more fun stuff, and also just kind of industry related shit, not just solely focusing on the games, but just a wider conversation in general. But yeah, stay tuned for all that. I'm plugging for no reason. Y'all will probably get hopefully it pops up in your YouTube feed. If I'm doing this thing right, it'll just pop up in your YouTube feed and you won't even really have to do nothing but just click on the thing as it pops up. So yeah, appreciate y'all for tuning in, man. I am really excited to tune in to the Game Awards, the actual stream and live react to that. I think Loon and I are gonna jump on that one together, and we've tossed around some ideas. Like I was like, dude, how about we create bingo cards and we predict 16 games apiece, you know, to fill up a bingo card list, and we like mark them off as the game announcements pop up, and then of course we'll make predictions for well, these are my predictions for the winners, but we'll kind of go through that as well. But anywho, appreciate y'all. Stay tuned. A lot of stuff on the way. The in-year content is very, 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 very time consuming. So I apologize if certain things get slightly delayed into like early 2026, but I'm going to try to have everything before the end of 2025 ready and available for you all. So stay tuned, lock in, and yeah, take it easy, guys. Oh, and also, Jesus Christ, this is fucking, it's already a long ass video, so who cares? I created a Google form, and I'm going to put this out at the end of the year for y'all to vote on. Like I have hundreds of games on that list for y'all to vote on your game of the year, and I want to make a specific dedicated video where it's like the real game of the year, the real top 10 games of the year, however it unfolds, where I just read out y'all's top 10 and give like a presentation that is honoring y'all's top 10 games of the year as well. So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for all that shit. I'm just plugging for the sake of plugging at this point. Take it easy, guys. I'll see you good people in the next video. Goodbye.